Hello and welcome to day 5 of KawaiiWeek. As a reminder, KawaiiWeek is hosted by Becky Cass and Paula Pastella over on Instagram, where they provide 7 prompts for the first week of April. I'm changing up the challenge a little bit, and instead of drawing an illustration for every day of April, I went ahead and drew them ahead of time, and instead I'm uploading these videos. We only have 2 more videos after this to go before we are done with KawaiiWeek, and today's prompt is to draw rainbow mermaids. I had no idea what to do with this one. I had zero inspiration. I didn't know at all what I wanted to draw, aside from the fact that it was going to be a mermaid, of which was a rainbow. I had a thought that maybe I would draw a mermaid coming out of a rainbow, or a mermaid swimming through a rainbow, or a mermaid creating a rainbow. I have no idea. And I didn't like any of that until finally my co-writer and best friend Spotted Snake was mentioning a favorite TV show of hers called Queer Eye, and I was like, well, that is a wonderful idea. And so here are my Pride mermaids. I'm actually really happy with this idea and concept. I mentioned before that I'm not good with humans or humanoids, and that includes mermaids, although last year I did participate in Mermay, which was the most difficult challenge I have ever done in my life. It was also the first art challenge I ever did, and those are back on my Instagram from last year. I don't think I followed that challenge very well, but it's there if you want to see those images from last year. Look at them at your own risk. So yeah, oh my goodness, the faces on these mermaids were so awkward. And that's when I decided that I am done with trying to figure out eyes for KawaiiWeek, and I just decided to close their eyes. Also hair. Hair was so much fun with this. Usually hair is something that I struggle with, but I'm slowly getting better at it now that I'm less cautious of what kind of hair that I can do, and I'm just letting myself go wild with it. So designing hair for these mermaids was so much fun. The first mermaid, with the long hair, her hair was just perfect. It was just done and perfect. But the second one I had a little bit of trouble with because I wasn't sure if I wanted her to have long hair as well, or if I wanted her to have short hair. I ended up going with the short hair because I liked the contrast between the long hair and then the short-haired girl, and I think that looked pretty well in the end. And plus I had an idea of what I wanted to do with the rainbow aspect, and you'll see that a little bit later. I am super excited about the rainbow aspect. It's funny because this one actually ended up being the most dreaded of the challenges, because I was like, I have to draw a mermaid. I'm not good at mermaids. Why does it have to be a mermaid? But it ended up being probably my second favorite next to the Candy Forest. And it's funny that I was most worried about this one, and it was yesterday's prompt that I struggled with the most. Also, designing clothes. So I talked about designing clothes in my second video for KawaiiWeek when I drew Nemu for the pastel girl prompt. And I decided to put my girls, you know how mermaids usually have like a shell bra or whatever. I wanted them to actually be wearing tops. And with the long-haired girl, I wanted to show a little bit more skin. And for the other one, which I realized I never drew her belly button. Ah, man. Oh well. And for the other one, I wanted her to have more of a longer shirt that was kind of like tied up behind her. I don't know. I don't really know what I was thinking with that one. It's kind of like a tank top, but it's not. I have no idea. Like, it is like tied at her shoulders, but also tied behind her, and it's like, I have no idea. The concept of clothes is still new, and I'm still experimenting, but at least I'm experimenting. Anyway, it was actually pretty fun to draw these two. Hands are a struggle of mine, and I usually draw nubs, and nubs need to become a thing of the past, and I am slowly trying to figure out how fingers work, and I didn't draw really fingers on this one. I know I drew a thumb, and that sort of counts, I guess, but I'm gonna take art one step at a time. First we'll go with clothes. I already conquered my fear with hair, and now hands and eyes will come soon. One day. We'll see. I'm also doing a different coloring method with this one, where instead of doing per segment, I decided to do a base color on the entire illustration, and that's because of the rainbow that's going to be incorporated in this, or rainbows. There will be 2 rainbows. Oh, and this necklace, I originally decided I was going to put this necklace in here because I thought it would be really cute, but with all of the stuff going on between their faces and with their hair, it ended up being too much, and the necklace got lost and it just looked messy, so I play around with that throughout the illustration, but in the end, the necklace isn't there, and I did realize that I missed an opportunity to have their hands create a heart, but I kind of like them half holding hands anyway, so it's fine. And then skin tones. Because I don't draw a lot of humans or humanoids, skin tones are not in my color palette. I had to look up a palette and take some skin tones, and I play around with that a lot because I wasn't sure which girl I wanted to be what kind of a skin tone, so I just drew one as one, and then that's when I was still developing the idea of how I was going to incorporate the rainbows, and that's when I decided to, because at first I put the colors underneath the girls that the colors were going to belong to, and then I ended up switching those colors, and now I'm finally starting on the rainbow. The rainbow is the most satisfying thing. Because I decided to go in with a blending technique that I actually found a tutorial on Instagram for, and I decided to give it a try, and I actually really like it. It worked pretty well. I did the blending on a different layer from the base colors, just so if I had to edit the blending, I didn't have to ruin the base color, and that's why I was able to erase that blue off the purple instead of ruining the purple as well, and that worked really well. And I think her tail being rainbow like that actually worked pretty well. I think it looks really nice. I don't know. But then moving on to the other girl comes the second rainbow. The second rainbow ended up being in her hair, and I was really trying hard not to have the purples touch each other. And I mentioned this in my Candy Forest illustration, which I think was day 3 of Kawaii Week, where I tried to keep colors away from each other. It didn't really work out with these girls. And so instead, to really separate those colors, I just did that with shading to really give it dimension, and so you can tell whose tail belongs to who and all that fun stuff. So there's that. And I'm playing around with necklace again, trying to make that work. I really wanted that necklace to work, and I'm kind of disappointed that it didn't work out. I think it would have been so cute. And so I decided to play around with the background color just so I could see the girls a little bit better. That way I can go in and figure out where the errors were and where the transparency was needed before I test out colors for the shading, changed the outline color, and finally went in with some shading. The shading was actually really exciting on this one because I got to play around with all these different shapes, and usually shading is pretty scary for me and I am not so great with it, but I think I'm getting better with it. And I like doing just these base shading, especially when it comes to this kind of kawaii style, which is mainly my only style, especially when it comes to drawing people and humanoids. And then the highlights, which of course are becoming my favorite part of any illustration, and I notice I do go a little bit crazy with these highlights, but they're underwater, so it can be fine, right? It's fine. Adding in some blushies, and then finally tweaking some colors here and there and the shading. And I learned this technique of adding a solid color over your entire illustration and then dulling it down. It's from somewhere on Instagram, an account that I follow, and I can't remember who it is, but I will look it up and leave that information in the description box below. And with that, day 5 of Kawaii Week is completed, and I'm actually really happy with this illustration. Like I said, it's probably my second favorite next to the Candy Forest. And I'd like to thank you all for watching. Like the video if you did, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I will see you tomorrow for day 6 of Kawaii Week. Bye!